Now, I've been asked to serve as the ranking Democrat on this task force to ensure that we remain focused on transparency and have a focus on the truth. Now, declassification of historical documents and careful review of the research can always provide us new and meaningful information to the public on a variety of topics. Now, for this hearing, I do have some broad remarks about declassification, but I want to start with, I think, really grounding us in who President Kennedy was and some facts about the president and his legacy. Now, we know that President Kennedy's assassination was a defining moment in our history and a genuine trauma for millions of Americans and people across the world. It has been, of course, an object of interest for decades. It's also a very human tragedy. President Kennedy was a son, a father, a brother, and a husband, and we should never lose sight of his family, and they're having to revisit this moment over and over again, as of course it's an important moment in American history. And I also don't want to lose sight of President Kennedy's legacy. President Kennedy stood proudly for American leadership. He fought for values all over the world. In the face of Russian threats, he told the free people of Europe that he stood with them. And he told the world, of course, over and over again, that America would stand for peace and for justice. And I want to read a quote that he said that America would, quote, pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty, end quote. We know he founded the Peace Corps, USAID, and his patience and restraint guided the world through the Cuban Missile Crisis. He reminded us that, and I quote, civility is not a weakness, and sincerity is always subject to proof, end quote. Of course, he broke barriers as our nation's first Catholic president, and in an inaugural address, he reminded us that we all have the power to abolish poverty as a single important mission of the United States and the world. He believed in service, he believed in government, and that government could achieve big things. He also, of course, fought for everyday things that Americans cared about. He fought for unions. He fought for federal workers to organize. He increased the minimum wage. And he laid the groundwork for the Civil Rights Act and called upon Americans to address the moral crisis of racial injustice. President Kennedy was actually the president that coined the phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats. It's a vision of the world, of course, where we all work together to make the country a better place for everyone. And I do not want to lose sight of his legacy in today's hearing or in any future conversations about this, of course, horrific moment in American history. His values are values that motivate us all to this day. Now, I also share the chairwoman's interest in transparency, and in transparency in a variety of topics. We've worked together on various issues that relates to UAPs, other declassification issues, and we know that in the past, the government has overclassified documents. I mean, I think that is a known fact that we should all agree on. This has been a bipartisan priority and discussion for decades. Now, in the past, we've had the House Select Committee, of course, the JFK Records Act, and releases of records, including the most recent, of course, tens of thousands of pages that were recently released. We know that today our federal agencies obviously have in the past obscured information and key facts from the public for too long. Overclassification at the expense of transparency is something we should all take seriously, but also note that it's incredibly serious and a delicate subject. Now, the CIA and the FBI, to be clear, particularly from this period of time in history, were deeply flawed institutions. To be clear again, the CIA and the FBI routinely overclassified documents in many instances, not just on the subject of President Kennedy and the assassination, but in multiple other subjects as well. And so I think it's important that we understand that, particularly during this period of time, there was an overclassification of documents on a variety of subjects. So it's of course responsible that we stick to facts, that we don't speculate, but certainly also allow new information to come into this hearing and for the public. It's important that we recognize that this process and safeguards do exist for a reason, and I hope our witnesses today will focus their testimony on information which is grounded in facts, in truth, and they can provide this task force with more information. I hope that we have an informative and respectful hearing, and I yield back. Thank you, Chairwoman.